Even simple one-dimensional chess exposes the limitations of the machine mind.
Bishop to Queen 6. Mistress?
There?
Affirmative. Check, Master.
What?
Machine mind computes mate in 6 moves.
Rubbish!
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH sourcing network. If you buy, sell, distribute, import, or manufacture fasteners, or occasionally have thoughts about hydrogen embrittlement, this is the Fastener Talk Radio show for you. Hey everybody, Eric Dudas here, along with the Isaac Asimov of the fastener software industry, Mr. Brian Musker. Brian, how are you?
Good, thanks. Isaac Asimov, how did you get that in there?
Well, the unofficial theme of the show, I guess, is robots, androids, what have you. We actually kicked today's episode off with a little interchange between K9 and the Doctor from the long-running sci-fi show Doctor Who. And I guess there was a fictitious example of computers dominating mankind, and boy, we've seen a little bit of that lately in real life, haven't we?
Yes.
You know, we were kicking around the whole thing with Watson the computer playing on Jeopardy last episode, and somebody, actually I think it was Vicky Lester from the Pac-West Association, popped up a post on our Facebook page about Doctor Who, and we mentioned TARDISes and Daleks and so forth as we were closing out the show, and I guess we just keep on with that same theme. But yeah, there's more in the news this time, and we'll get to all of that. But once again, folks, thanks for joining us for Fully Threaded Radio, episode number 21. This will be uploaded to the Fully Threaded site on March 10th, 2011.
Well, it's more than just episode 21. It's our one-year birthday episode, isn't it?
Yes, it is about 1 year since we've started off on this voyage. And we'll talk a little bit about that, too. Why don't we run down the lineup for today's show, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll talk with Nancy Rich. She's the executive director of the Midwest Fastener Association, and she's going to be describing FastenerTech 11, which is a trade event coming up in June. Then we'll welcome, for his second appearance on Fully Threaded, Mr. Andy Cohn. He's the president of Duncan Bolt and also the president of the Pacific West Fastener Association. They've got their spring conference coming up, and he's going to give us the rundown on that, plus some of his opinions on the industry these days, including his thoughts on the heads and threads situation. Then we'll have a redux with our good friend, Mr. Andy Pels. He's the proprietor of ScrewCrew.com, and he was one of the guests on our very first episode of Fully Threaded. So we'll walk down memory lane with our old pal.
Good, yeah.
And we'll get it all kicked off with Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International and his Fastener News Report. So we've come a long way in 1 year, and I think this episode is very suitable for our anniversary show.
Yeah, particularly Andy Pels coming back, because we've met up with him a few times, and he has some interesting comments about the industry too.
Well, he's a guy who's out there in the trenches all the time, and he's also a guy who watches technology, and he's thoughtful about it. And it's, I think, interesting to get a guy like that and listen to his perspectives, because you really never know what's going to come out of his mouth. Or off of his blog page, for that matter.
Or an email.
What, is there an inside thing there? Did you get something funny from him today?
Well, I did actually. I was sending him it was a bit of a snide comment, but it was to do with he and I had been discussing these various smartphones, and he as we'll learn later on in the show, there's a very keen user of his Android phone and makes a lot of use of it. So I sent him a note, said I thought Androids were for geeks. So he he sent me back very quickly one. I said I thought iPhones were for snobs. So I won't mention iPhones again for another at least 10 minutes, okay?
Yes. The themes that we come up with, it's supposed to be a fastener show.
Right, I know, yeah, right. But fasteners affect all these things, including how iPhones and Androids put together.
Right. Well, that's something. Now, we continuously are reminded by audience members that this is a fastener show, and I think if on balance, we stick to our theme, but we do throw in several themes, and over the last year we've had a number of them, haven't we? I mean, I guess lately it's been smartphones and robotics and computers kind of taking over the human race, hasn't it? But let's see, we've had a few others as the show has unfolded. Beer was one.
Piracy.
Yes. Tattoos.
Right, yeah.
So, runs the gambit. I guess some would argue right-wing propaganda.
Yes. Right. And, from that follows some people have suggested we should stick very much to fasteners and not get anywhere near politics. However, if they feel like that, then they can always make their own show up.
Touché.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we keep rolling along, and thanks everybody for joining us, and the audience keeps growing, and we sure do appreciate that. We should also point out that we've been blessed to have the assistance of several people in the industry over the last year, and believe me, we have noticed it. In no particular order, some of the folks that have really given us some support, some link juice out there on the web, Traveling Salesman from FastenerBlog.net. He's always putting up our links, and, of course, Andy Pels with ScrewCrew.com. Thanks very much, guys, for that. Always reliable inbound links. American Fastener Journal and the Fastener News Now column is giving us a little bit of coverage, and we appreciate that as well.
Let's not forget about Fastener Technology International. I mean, they post links to us, and we get our news from there, too.
Absolutely, and we're going to be hearing from Mike McNulty in a couple of moments. Those guys have been real good to us. They take care of us in their magazine as well, and it's a great magazine. You ever read about that between your sittings of robotics today, Bri?
I don't normally study robotics, okay?
Or should I call you Isaac?
Isaac Asimov. Now, I have read that. Actually, it was Isaac Asimov who dreamed up the word robotics.
Is that right?
Yeah, first turned up in the 1940s. Yeah, but we'll return to that a little bit later in the show, okay? Because it adds a little more meat to our discussions about technology and phones and robots.
Lord knows we need that, right?
Yes, of course. How would we live without it?
Hey, folks, we are the people behind FastenersClearinghouse.com and the FCH Sourcing Network, and we hope you're all taking advantage of that whenever the need comes up when you're looking for a hard-to-find fastener item. Just log on to www.FastenersClearinghouse.com, go to the Search for Fasteners page, and there's a huge database of fasteners that you can search on, get in touch with the distributors who list them directly, and hopefully we can help you out that way. On the other side of the coin, if you're looking for a place to make extra sales, hey, give us a call. We'll help you out there too. It's www.FastenersClearinghouse.com.
Right, and while you're there, just remember that the people who search the web for fasteners are not necessarily searching for surplus. They just are searching for fasteners. And if you have it listed on FCH, then there's more chance that someone will find it.
Bingo. And we hope to hear from you. Your communication is very welcome. Our email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. And also you can check out our occasional Twitter posts under the handle Fully Threaded.
Right, and quite frequently the various postings and information items that we mention on the show, you can find the links to them on our Facebook page.
We never tire of combing the web for the very best for our listeners.
Right.
And speaking of that, not to steal any thunder from Mike McNulty, because I know he's covering this in his Fastener News Report, But I saw one of the headlines floating around out there about one of the largest fastener-related companies, ITW, and apparently the great investment mogul Warren Buffett has that company in his sights potentially. Did you see about this, Bri?
Yes, I did. Now, I thought, we sort of say we're not really a news organisation. We leave that to Mike McNulty and others, actually. But you're right. That would be an interesting thing, how that plays out, because that brings instant respectability to anything that Warren Buffett looks at.
Yeah, well, it says about a $25 billion investment it would represent, which is unbelievably huge. I had no idea. Of course, I'm thinking right to the bottom line. Typically I'm like, wow, if that happened to us, we could get some of those Geico Gecko type commercials. I mean,
right.
When he bought that company, it just the advertising. It just it never ceases to amaze me how creative those guys are. They're fantastic.
Right. I know that you're taken by the gecko. Okay. Even though you do not like car insurance, I know that too.
No, I got State Farm myself, but the commercials are great.
That's right.
So I hope we didn't take too much out of your sales, Mike.
Don't worry, I think Mike will be fine, okay?
I'm sure he will. And with that, here's Mike McNulty with the Fastener News Report.
Thanks, Eric, and greetings to all the fully threaded radio listeners out there. This is Mike McNulty with the Fastener News Report, brought to you by Fastener Technology International, the print and digital magazine for the entire global fastener industry. Well, Eric, the grass has made a prolonged appearance here in Northeast Ohio, but it's just a sober reminder of all the yard work waiting for us this spring. In other news, I saw that Charlie Sheen took President Obama's new slogan, Winning the Future, also known as WTF, and changed it to plain winning. Now, if our president starts smoking again and talking about tiger blood, then things might get interesting. Until that happens, I'm going to stay focused on the fastener industry. Our lead story today is a summary of some positive news surrounding the industry. In recent news reports on Fully Threaded Radio, we have talked about the strong financial results being released recently by fastener-related companies, and I'm sure that many listeners of this program heard Holden Lewis enthusiastically report his findings in episode number 20 related to Purchasing Managers Index, general economic indicators, capital spending patterns, and revenue growth. Now, in spite of rising costs for materials and energy and the lack of an official statement from Heads and Threads International, I have some good news to report. Michael Sholnick of the blog ProudlyMadeInUS.com says that manufacturing employment in the USA continued to rise in February with the addition of 33,000 jobs. Since its recent low in December of 2009, manufacturing has added almost 200,000 jobs. The Specialty Tools and Fastener Distributor Association, also known as STAFTA, says that its distributors reported an average fourth quarter sales increase of 10.4% and that overall increase in sales for 2010 were 5.5%. Fastener Fair Stuttgart 2011 closed last month with record results. On an exhibition area of over 135,000 square feet, 667 exhibitors from 40 countries showcased their fastener and fixing products and services to 8,300 visitors, an increase of 38% compared to the last show in Stuttgart in 2009. Global Industry Analysts Incorporated has completed a global report on the steel wire market, which is expected to grow at 5% per year to reach a total value of $25.4 billion by the year 2015. Steel wire is the main source of materials for making fasteners, and this growth will be driven by improvements in the construction and automotive industries, as well as rising demand from other end-use industries such as agriculture, furniture, and appliances. Weighing in at 42 tons, EW Men's biggest machine in its history was shipped in December from its factory in Germany. The GW161H XL flat die thread rolling machine is capable of threading parts with shank lengths of over 30 inches and thread lengths of nearly 14 inches. Dennis Berman of the Wall Street Journal has some suggestions for Warren Buffett, who has billions of dollars to spend and an itchy trigger finger to make some big game acquisitions. The list from Berman includes a few fastener-friendly companies, Illinois Toolworks, W.W. Granger, and Kennametal. Now, Eric, I know the future is not bright for everyone out there in the fastener industry, but it's always good to look at positive trends, and Warren Buffett usually targets industrial companies with near monopoly positions, solid sales growth, and good income levels. So that tells me that some companies in the fastener industry are doing things right. Now let's move on to Fastener Newsmaker Highlights, which leads off this episode with an acquisition. Elgin Fastener Group has announced an addition to its growing production capabilities through the acquisition of Silo Fasteners last month. Silo was established in 1990, and it provides fasteners for highway construction, concrete form, and general distribution use. Elgin is relocating Silo's machinery and some of its production personnel to Elgin's Ohio Rod Products facility in Versailles, Indiana. The acquisition will provide Elgin with entry into new markets and will allow it to expand its current activities in the construction market. Jeff Gehring is the new president of Aerospace Products SE, also known as APSE, a supplier of hardware and fasteners, bin management, and supply chain services to commercial and military OEMs. Jeff joined APSE in 2009 as the vice president of business development. ITW Shakeproof Industrial Products has named 3Q Incorporated as its distributor for its SEMS washer product line. Mark Madeline is the founder of 3Q, and he has 20 years of industry experience, including holding the positions of president at Fasco and VP of sales at Aztec Locknut. Initially, 3Q is stocking 30 different ITW Shakeproof SEMS products, and it expects to expand on this in the future. Penn Engineering has been awarded a license from Phillips Screw Company for its patented More Torque Super Spiral Drive System. And our final newsmaker is Beta Steel has added Schaff & Associates to its collection of representative firms. Don Schaff, Michael Selman, and Donnie Schaff will be working with the Beta Steel Group to provide service to the cold-heading wire industry throughout the Midwest of the United States. All right, Eric, next up is our Fastener Events on the Horizon report featuring activity on two stages, one local and the other international. The North Coast Fastener Association is hosting its Distributor Social on Thursday, May 19th at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Independence, Ohio. The first NCFA Distributor Social was held in 2009. This event is unique in that it is not a fastener show. It is simply a social networking event which creates a forum in which the top suppliers in the fastener industry are brought in contact with prominent fastener distributors. Sponsoring suppliers can participate for $250, and the social is intended for any and all buyers, expediters, quote analysts, and salespeople from distributors in Ohio and surrounding states. Details are available at the association's website, ncfaonline.com. Exhibitor applications for WIRE 2012 in Dusseldorf, Germany are now available online at wire.de and mdna.com. The Dusseldorf show has an exhibition hall dedicated to fastener manufacturing technology, and it is a great place to see the latest machinery, materials, and accessories for making all types of fasteners. This trade show is scheduled for the end of March 2012. Finally, let's turn over to the back page of this report while I give some personal interest stories and editorial comments. This time around, we have two government-related subjects. First up, the United States Government Accountability Office, also known as the GAO, has released a 345-page report titled Opportunities to Reduce Potential Duplication in Government Programs, Save Tax Dollars, and Enhance Revenue. The first warning on this report is its length, but if you look at the details that some folks at the Wall Street Journal did, then you will find out that the U.S. government has 15 different agencies overseeing food safety laws, more than 20 separate programs to help the homeless, and 80 programs for economic development. The list goes on. 82 federal programs to improve teacher quality, 80 to help disadvantaged people with transportation, 47 for job training and employment, 56 to help people understand finances, 35 programs for infrastructure, and 26 more for telecommunications. Senator Tom Coburn, Republican in Oklahoma, one of many people who pushed for this report, which is the first of its kind, estimates that the GAO has identified $100 to $200 billion in duplicative spending in the federal government alone. I started to read the report and my eyes started to glaze over after a few minutes. I didn't need to understand it all, as the title and the length tell most of the story. I think that we need to tame the beast of government by taking lots of money away from it before it consumes everything in sight. This report reinforces the folly of the argument that healthcare costs are going to go down now that the government is taking them over. The reality is that costs will go up as quality and availability take a back seat, and future GAO reports of this kind will likely have an expanded healthcare section. In another government-related story, the Detroit News says that the Chevrolet Volt failed to impress Consumer Reports, the influential reviewer of all sorts of consumer products. David Champion, senior director at the Consumer Reports Auto Testing Center, said, When you're looking at purely dollars and cents, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. The Volt isn't particularly efficient as an electric vehicle, and it's not particularly good as a gas vehicle either, in terms of fuel economy. Champion also called the 5-hour charging period annoying, and he criticized the Volt's heating system. I say that this is a government story because the federal government decided that it would subsidize purchases of this plug-in vehicle to the tune of $7,500 per Volt to make it more competitive with other green cars like the Toyota Prius. This was done, not surprisingly, while GM was under the thumb of Uncle Sam. Now, I don't really care about the success or failure of the Volt or the Prius, but I do have a problem with the government sticking its fingers into free markets to promote pet projects and technology. Another example of this is subsidies for new light bulbs. This meddling in product selection is not what drives innovation or success. It's simply part of a plan which could be called losing the future. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Visit FastenerTech.com to learn more about the fastener industry and send us your news, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at McNulty@FastenerTech.com.
Nancy Rich is coming up next, then don't miss Andy Cohn. It's FTR.
FastenerTech 11 is the all-fastener industry event in the heart of the fastener industry. This is Nancy Rich, Executive Director of the Midwest Fastener Association, and on behalf of the Midwest Fastener Association and Fastener Technology International Magazine, I'd like to invite you to Rosemont, Illinois, June 13th through the 15th, to attend FastenerTech 11. This year marks the 30th fastener show the Midwest Fastener Association has produced. This year's FastenerTech features seminars, meetings, and activities, including the premier trade exhibition in the Midwest. This event will also include the all-industry reception, which is open to all exhibitors and attendees. Also this year, FastenerTech will take place alongside Surfin', the annual trade show of the National Association for Surface Finishing, which offers free admission to FastenerTech attendees. For details and registration information, please visit www.mwfa.net or www.fastenertech.com. If you attend only one industry event this year, make it FastenerTech 11 in the heart of the fastener industry.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, all just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
This is Chris from Hudson Fasteners, Fastener News at Twitter, and Fascinating Domain. And you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
We're joined now by Nancy Rich. She's the Executive Director of the Midwest Fastener Association. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for coming on with us.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
Say, it was great to see you the other night at the dinner meeting up there in Arlington Heights. That was kind of an unusual meeting, joining forces with the other associations, wasn't it?
You know, it really was, and it's the first time that we've had a joint meeting with the metal finishers and the American electroplaters and surface finishers. But we do have a lot of common issues since we're all involved in plating, so it worked out great.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and one of the presentations that I really enjoyed was the one by Christian Richer, and he was presenting some of his battles, I guess you'd call them, with the EPA and so forth. He's quite a knowledgeable guy. It seems like he's a good guy you want to have on your side of things.
Oh, he is. He's a very active lobbyist for the plating group, and he's constantly in Washington fighting for their efforts.
Now, coming up in June, the Midwest Fastener Association, along with Fastener Technology International, are presenting FastenerTech 11, and that's coming up on June 13th and 15th. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is, and it'll be here before we know it, so hopefully everyone is planning on attending.
And you're joining forces also, or I guess co-locating with SureFin, too.
Yes, they will be having their show in the same hall, so we will be sharing events where they'll be able to attend our events, we'll be able to attend theirs. It's another opportunity for people to actually listen to Christian Richter, who will, again, present there.
And what other things are going on in concert with the show, Nancy?
We have some great events coming up with the show. We'll have a fastener technology workshop. There'll be a heat treating workshop. There'll be ways on expanding your business. There'll be information on technology. In fact, you'll be there too, Eric, to help us with that. We'll have trends in social networking where you're involved.
That's right.
We'll also have tips on buying. There's several things. Some of these seminars will have fees, some will not. The registration forms will have all the information, which, again, are at the websites.
And those are www.mwfa.net or FastenerTech.com.
Correct. All the details are there, whether you're looking to exhibit, to register for an event, or just attend the show.
Now, this is a show that you put on every other year, right?
Yes, this large show is every other year. In the off years, we as an association do a tabletop show. But we take advantage of the wealth of information in our industry to do this large show every other year and bring in other groups who sponsor with us to produce these seminars and invite exhibitors who maybe do not prefer to go to tabletop shows.
Well, I've been at the last couple of these, and they've been very well attended. They're very professionally organized. And how does it look for this year?
Well, you know, Eric, I'm pleased to see that business has improved because that shows in every event you try and produce. And booth sales are up for this time. We're up to about 95 booths, 90 exhibitors.
Wow.
And normally a lot of exhibitors do wait until the last couple of months to decide what they're doing. So to be at that point now is a very good sign for the show.
Yeah, it sounds like it. There's still room, though, in case you wanted to become an exhibitor. Is that true?
There is. The exhibit hall has plenty of room. We'll never turn away an exhibitor. We just encourage people to register early. It gives them a chance to select locations they prefer. We can ensure they're in the show book. You know, it's much easier to get registered early as possible.
Right. And again, that's June 13th through the 15th, and it's happening in Rosemont, Illinois.
Yes, just outside O'Hare Airport, so it's very easy access for those traveling from out of state.
Well, the Midwest Fastener Association is never really cooling its heels. You've got another big event coming up in the near future, too, and that would be the golf outing. What's the details of that, Nancy?
Actually, our 59th annual golf outing will be on June 6th. This year we've been fortunate to be invited to conduct it at a private country club. So we'll be at Crest Creek Country Club in Naperville, Illinois. And as always, we'll do a shotgun start. We'll have lunch before. We'll have a dinner afterwards with awards. Plenty of contests out on the course. So it'll be a very fun event. And also, since we're celebrating our 65th anniversary all year, every event we do has a little touch of the 65th anniversary.
Nice. Well, that's a fantastic setting. It's a great course. I know that's not too far away from the broadcast center of Fully Threaded Radio, so I can personally attest to this. However, have you made all the arrangements so you don't get rained out like last year? I mean, that was a deluge last year.
Oh, please, Eric, don't remind me. That was the first time in 27 years that has happened. We've had a couple of cold days, but never a downpour like that. So I'm hoping I have a few favors left to get a good day this year.
Well, I think Rex Crawford is actually hoping for rain. He wants to make it 2 in a row.
Oh, well, the winters do turn out different in a rainstorm.
Well, I hope you get some great weather this year, that's for sure.
Thank you. So do we.
Nancy, it's been great to have you on. I hope everybody makes it out to FastenerTech 11 this year. Again, it's June 13th through the 15th in Rosemont, Illinois. The MWFA and Fastener Technology, they do just a great job, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, Eric. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Andy Cohn is the top dog at Duncan Bolt, and they're based out of Santa Fe Springs, California. He's also the president of the Pacific West Fastener Association, and they're having their big spring conference coming up March 17th through the 19th. Andy, you're making your return appearance. Welcome back to Fully Threaded Radio. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.
Say, I know we want to talk about the spring conference and everything that's going to be going on there, but I'm sure you have some perspectives about what's going on in the industry, and I know everybody wants to hear. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit, what are you seeing out there in the market?
I see that at the level of nuts and bolts and people who actually make products, some recovery occurring finally, and I think people in general are busier. It may or may not reflect in the stock market of the oil price, but in terms of, orders for quarter 20 nuts, I think most distributors are doing better than they were a year ago at this time. And because of the confluence of a lot of things in the market, prices are on their way, somewhere between up and through the roof.
Right.
Well, it sort of depends on what kind of product you're in. Certainly the biggest component of that is the steel prices. And even the youngest people in the business are getting used to the seesaw effect of that. We haven't seen gradual rises and decreases. We've seen some pretty scary, hairy jumps in the last 2-3 years, up and down, and it's going up again. Cold heading wire is up, scrap is up. The new cores and the people like that who use surcharges are implementing them, and prices in steel are, it isn't always reflected yet in the warehouse prices. It's starting to be, but the stuff coming from overseas is up 10 to 15%.
Now, we would expect that since some of the big freight lines and shipping lines, they pretty heavily dependent on oil. We expect another increase based on oil increases in the near future. Do you see that?
Yep, absolutely. And they've already made serious noises about that. And then coming right behind them on the front page of the Financial Times last week was the iron ore producers holding up the, steel-making people and iron-making people again, and that they're going to pay the highest level ever for iron ore on the new contract. So that's yet even behind that. There certainly are no downward pressure issues. Freight, as you said, is a big one. And interestingly enough, for here on the West Coast, for those of us here on the West Coast, it's a consideration if we're buying bolts in Chicago because we're paying more to the truck lines to move them out here. Or if we're buying bolts in Taiwan, we're paying more to the ship line.
Right.
The pricing environment, is that allowing you to maintain your margins, or what's happening there? Are distributors going to be feeling the squeeze? How do you see that balancing out?
I think it is a all too common situation where we all keep our head in the sand until the margin gets unacceptable. And then we run around going, holy mackerel, what's going on here? I think that smart distributors are doing everything they can to prepare their customers for it, and they are talking it up and raising prices where they can.
Right, makes sense. Now, this may dovetail onto a subject that we talked about last time you were on the show, and I asked you if you were surprised by kind of the few number of, I guess, dropouts out of the market based on the tough economy. And in subsequent episodes of Fully Threaded, we've actually had several guests make various attempts at answering that same question. Most recently, on episode 20, Halden Lewis, our business analyst, was commenting that we may begin to see more fallout, actually, now that we've kind of hit the home stretch, as it seems. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room right now is the situation at Heads. And there's a lot of ambiguity with what may or may not be happening there, but there certainly is something. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I want to steer clear of Heads just for a second. I read an article about a year ago that didn't really impress upon me until later, but the author's contention was that you don't see bankruptcies in the downturn. As people's inventory come down and AR come down, they have cash, even if they're losing money. And that when you start to see the players drop off is when things start back up and people don't have the money to go out and buy now that their customer finally is ordering again. And that's when you really start to see the players drop out. And as I said, at the time it didn't really hit home to me, but subsequently it has, and I believe they're right. I think that's an overall comment, and that the people who were really, really weakened by the recession are the ones who you're going to see drop by the wayside. Now, does that tie into Heads and Threads? I don't think so, because in fact, a rising tide of prices like this right now makes somebody with massive, massive inventories like Heads even more valuable.
Right.
So if you're, the bank, you're like, well, if I hang on, they can get 20% more for all this stuff. I do not have any facts on the HTI situation. I've been an observer of the fastener importer market for 1,000 years, since I started. I think that they continuously made bad business decisions for the last 10 years and failed to recognize that they, like everyone else, were in a changing world and that they needed to change with it. And they tried to continue to operate the old-fashioned way. And they made a lot of mistakes, and that the cumulative effects of all of those things finally hit together or came together and made the situation untenable for them a couple of months ago. But whether that's the management, the bank, capital partners, you're going to have to wait for 3 to 6 months for somebody to write the tell-all book about who did what to whom.
You think that's going to be about how long it's going to take to shake out?
I actually think that their decision has been made or will be made, and that someone will either be buying the assets or that they will continue with the liquidation as they have announced. But, the part I was referring to is the behind the scenes of where the last minute savior did or did not appear.
Right.
Well, I guess the next question is something else that everyone's been wondering, and I'm sure you have your own thoughts on this too, but what might some of the longer term effects of this be?
I have absolutely wondered that. I think that this kind of huge instability is bad. It's good for Duncan Bolt today because they are selling at low prices, but I don't like the idea of having one less supplier in the marketplace. On the West Coast, we have a limited number of importers compared to the Midwest. And, anytime, how do you know whether it's just one more importer slowly going out of business like 8 have before, or whether this indicates a major change in the way the market is going to be and the way people are going to go to market? You don't really know until a couple of years later.
Right.
I'm old enough that the stability and traditional, wanting to have 3 people to call or 4 people to call is desirable. And don't forget, we distributors have continued to, in the once upon a time days, there were importers and there were distributors, and it's always sort of struck me as odd that distributors are allowed to go into the importers business, but importers are not allowed to go into the distributors business.
Right.
So you could argue that a lot of the weakness comes from the fact that distributors are going around people like Heads and Threads on the easy stuff and cutting them out of that, and that, but Heads and Threads isn't, everybody would just fall over dead if Heads and Threads tried to sell to an OEM.
Do you see that as a significant trend?
There's distributors going around importers?
Yeah.
Yes, it's been a significant trend for 15 years. It's what changed the business model and made most of the mill-only suppliers go away. And a lot of big fastener distributors pride themselves on the fact that they import themselves, even when they pay more for the privilege. And it's causing people to try and do new and different models. But so far, nobody's really broken through with oh, wow, this is really cool and a different approach. When Cambridge started, they had a whole new model and a whole different approach, and which has nothing to do with, the Heads and Threads world. But I'm just saying that there's somebody that had an idea and came through with a new, different way of doing things with the 8th keg and the 100% stock available, and the market grabbed onto it and said, this is a value, this is a great service, and they've been very successful. I see a lot of people trying to do that with importing today in terms of buying groups and new models, but I haven't seen anybody who's come through as a shining star the way Cambridge did when they introduced their new model.
That's an interesting comment.
Well, I was just trying to come up with one example. Everybody says you can't change the way it is because it's always been that way. Well, it's not the case. It's amazing. I mean, I know people older than me that have BlackBerries and iPhones and have learned how to use them.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Which industry are they in?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's only 2 or 3 in the fastener business, admittedly.
Out of 6,000, all right.
But the answer is, if Grandpa wants to see pictures of the grandchildren, some of them learn how to use the computer.
Yeah, that is.
So when it's and my stepmother has managed to learn how to text because she wants to stay in touch with her grandchildren. People change when it's to their benefit, not because somebody dictated that it's time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, that's true.
Your next question is, what's the next great, really cool thing that somebody's going to introduce for the fastener industry that everybody's going to just jump all over? And I'm sorry to tell you, I don't know what it is. But if you come to Seattle to the Pacific West Spring Meeting, you might find out.
Right.
How's that for a lead-in, Eric?
That's a great lead-in, okay?
Yes, your old days in radio are showing right now, Andy, I tell you.
Right.
To refresh everyone's memory, the meeting that we're talking about is the Pac-West 2011 Spring Conference. It's happening at Hotel 1000 in Seattle, Washington, and that's coming up in about a week and a half from when we're recording this, and that's March 17th through March 19th. What's on the plate for that event?
Well, the first thing is that I'm being stoned because there's no golf. But unfortunately, in today's economic world, $179 a night in rainy downtown Seattle makes more sense for a business meeting than $439 a night somewhere in Scottsdale. So you golfers, sorry about that. The real focus of the meeting is always about the fastener business and providing value to our members. The two things that we're doing that I'm really proud of are, one, Bruce Darling from Porteous, recently out of semi-retirement, is going to do one of his programs on where steel prices are going and what you can look for in fastener prices in the next 6 months. And a couple of years ago when he did it, we had Bruce Wheeler from Star Stainless up there, and they decided to call it the Rusty and Shiny Show. So Bruce isn't available, but one of the bright young men from Star, Tim Roberto, is coming, and he's also going to, first what happens typically is that Bruce Darling talks about 6 cents a pound and 7 cent and 7% price increases, and then the stainless guys get up and go, 7%? What are you guys worried about? We're looking at 20, 30, and 40%.
Yeah,
that's true. And those are always really useful. None of us likes to hear it when it's up, but we need to. And the second part of program that I think everybody would be really impressed with is Joe Greenslade from the IFI is going to be there. And he's going to show everybody the IFI website and how much you can use it in terms of sourcing and finding IFI members. There's a big public section there where, find a supplier of large diameter bolts or miniature Torx drive screws. But it's also part of our initiative to get better communication going between the domestic factories and fastener distributors. For the last 20, 30 years, they've been competitors and enemies, and I think most fastener distributors don't even consider a domestic source on stuff that they should consider, and that there are a lot of factories in Chicago and Cleveland that are pounding out stuff, and it's to all of our benefit to have them continue to do so. And some of them are totally clueless and off in their world and don't want to know about distribution. And some of them have acknowledged that they need the distributor and that that's their path to success, is at least partially through distribution. And at Pac-West, being the farthest from them that we can be, we decided that we really need to increase the communication between those two sides and let people realize that they need each other. So we're really excited about that, or at least I am.
Good. Actually, that's a great subject, relative to if you, follow some of the comments about how do you help the U.S. economy, and one of them is, well, you try and buy American. And the question is, if you decide to do that for fasteners, how do you find American manufactured fasteners?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are less than there used to be. And many of the ones that are there are not out advertising themselves, at least to this community.
Right.
And interestingly enough, I mean, we have parts on which we're asked to source, quota both ways. And we have stuff on which, Taiwan is $1 and made in Chicago is $2. But there's also stuff where it's 10%. And for 10% or 20%, wouldn't you rather support a domestic factory and keep them alive, and wouldn't your customer very possibly like to?
You would think so.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, but it does require, it requires a little bit of preparation, and you have to, introduce it in a slightly different way. And that actually was dealt with at one of the Midwest Fastener meetings, the last one we went to. How do you put the argument to buy American, even if it is a little bit more expensive?
Yeah, and let's face it, if we're talking about, the pop rivet, my favorite point of contemplating that is always looking at the pop rivets that go in porta potties. A relatively non-critical application. I don't know that guy is going to want to pay 10 or 20 or 30 or 40% more for his blind rivets. Not if the Chinese parts function. But as Bill Hayes, 10,000 years ago, once pointed out during the fastener quality hearings, that an S-hook, if it's holding up the swing that your child is on, is a critical application fastener.
Right, yeah.
So whether you bought it at Home Depot or, had it made by a nuclear certified supplier is something you've got to decide.
Right.
Again, there is a large, vibrant fastener community of manufacturers in the United States. I consider half of them to be arrogant SOBs that are not interested in the distributor community and are not interested in listening to what the distributor community needs in a valued supplier. And I consider half of them to be real assets and people who get it and people who want to help and people who are interested in changing and staying alive. And we as distributors have forgotten that those guys exist. So that's one of the reasons we're having Joe out to talk about some of those people.
Wow, well, I think that sounds like a really great subject, actually. And I guess you could say that the reason there are fewer of them now is because some of them haven't had the correct business attitude towards doing business in America.
Again, when I travel around China, it's amazing how many American suppliers of products that use fasteners have migrated out of the United States. That's the biggest part of the change. And an American fastener factory who's still in business and still successful has changed, or they would have been, we would have gotten invitations to their auction.
Right.
But there are, the distributors are equally to blame. We all look for price every day, and there are places where that isn't the issue. And I'm proud to say that we have a couple of customers where on their critical fasteners they will only accept North American product. And is that going to change someday? Maybe. But for the moment, it's not, and we're happy to support the domestic factories.
Andy, there's going to be no golf clubs at the meeting. You're going to be handing out umbrellas?
Actually, it's a very short run across the street from the hotel to Pike's Place Market, and we're basically planning on substituting drinking and partying instead of playing golf.
Oh, well, I'm sure you won't have too many people complaining about that.
I think this has been a well-thought-out event.
Yeah.
And for folks who want to get more information on this, the website is www.pac-west.org. And you can get all the info there. And again, that's March 17th through the 19th in Seattle, Washington.
Right, and I can tell you they have great meetings.
Yeah, again, it's got to be about value or people aren't going to come, even without the golf.
Right.
Well, I hope this strategy works out, and we're going to hear all about it also. Sure do appreciate you joining us, Andy. It's always fantastic listening to you. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
This place is ours.
Take care, gentlemen.
Fastener blogger extraordinaire Andy Pels joins us next.
This is Sue Rice with the FCH team. It's my job to make sure that as an FCH member, you receive the highest possible benefit from your participation in the network. Did you know that once you're logged into FCH, you have access to exclusive search tools, site statistics, and tracking information about your inventory and source finder inquiries? It's all just a click away, and I'm happy to walk you through it. If it's time to refresh your inventory, don't worry. We'll run your listings through our scrubber software and get you up and running in a very short time. If you can attach a spreadsheet to an email, you can list inventory on FCH. We can also show you how to optimize your listings to attract the most hits for your type of fastener. Send email to Sue at fastenersclearinghouse.com and let me help you get the most from the FCH sourcing network. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
You know your screws and your brews. That's why now there's a beer brewed just for the fastener industry. That's right. You drove all day to make that call. The beer you'll pour, it must be tall. Yeah. Old rusty boat. Yeah. You sold those screws and bolts and nuts, and now it's time to fill your guts, that's clear. Old rusty boat. Yeah. Forget about cold-filtered. Old Rusty's cold-headed for fastener people just like you. It's the beer that could have made Rockford, Illinois famous until we had to start importing some of the pure 100% natural ingredients that go into every batch. It's got that full-threaded flavor, but with a third less oxides, so you can keep enjoying Old Rusty long after the warehouse or show floors close down for the day. That's also why Old Rusty's available in quarter kegs and now in convenient pallets too. Keep it flowing, house. Old Rusty Boat.
Murray with Untitled Chapter, your source for VMI on the West Coast. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
It was a year ago we kicked off Fully Threaded Radio, and in the process of searching for just the right guest for that first episode, we invited the proprietor of ScrewCrew.com, and here he is joining us again, Andy Pels. Andy, thanks for coming back.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to be back. Can't believe it's been a whole year already.
I know.
Time flies when you're having fun, okay?
Well, it has been a fun year this last 12 months. I think everybody would agree compared to the previous 12 months. It's been a blast.
Now, let me get this straight. The year was a blast, and what was the reason for that, Andy? I don't want to misinterpret you.
Yeah. Oh, I've been partying all the time. And no.
Right. Now you have to actually get down and do some work.
No, just the 12 months before that was when I think everything really went downhill, and it's been slowly climbing back up. Even out in dreadful California with all the budget problems we've got, there's a lot of good news perking up here and there from friends in the industry. So I guess maybe it's more of an optimism thing that we haven't experienced a ton of growth yet, but we can see some things coming up. So
Gotcha.
That's always
Gotcha.
good.
Okay, I just didn't want to misinterpret that and read it like you were saying that now that the industry is adorned with the finest fastener talk radio, that it's a much different environment. But well, I guess the overall optimism is a good reason to make that characterization. Hey, why don't you refresh everybody's memory? You are the proprietor of ScrewCrew.com, and that's one of the zaniest blogs for fastener freaks, as you've termed it. But what do you do in your day job?
I work actually the company I work for is a full line distributor of all kinds of tools and parts, including fasteners, but I've always worked for fastener specialists, so that's what I still do, selling fasteners as a distributor, mostly to manufacturers for their products. And then ScrewCrew.com has just been sort of a little fun sideline that I swear I'm going to add some more things to. But yeah, as you've seen, I just try and get some goofy stuff, fastener-related stuff up there as often as I can.
Right. Well, you go in spurts, and right now it seems like you're in the middle of one. God, some of these items that you have up there are just unbelievable. The incense burner, I mean, the cufflinks. I guess the cufflinks is kind of an obvious one. It seems like there's a lot of varieties of that, but I mean, geez, I'm not even going to ask you where you come up with all this stuff. Just don't stop. It's
great. There's just, I think a lot of this stuff always has been out there. It's just that search functions on the internet are so much better that it's easier for me to find these things. And I just love it. Anything that's got a picture of a screw on it makes me grin.
Right.
And it really does seem like a lot of artists incorporate fasteners into their art. It's a really interesting phenomenon. If I was artistic, I might understand it better, but I don't see myself that way. Anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Well, you were talking about searching, and a year ago when we had you on the show, one of the things that we were talking about was technology and your spin on it. You're a guy who is definitely a technology observer as it pertains to the fastener world, and that's a huge subject. You continue to work in the industry and observe emerging technology. And do you see any trends out there? I mean, do you see any sites that are sticking out in your mind or new tools? What's your read on all this?
Well, specifically in the industry, we've talked before, and there was a lot of good talk at the Fastener Show in Vegas about online ordering from master distributors, and that's kind of been kicked into gear a little more to where I think it ought to be, just to make distribution more effective. But there are also some other web-based tools that, as a fastener distributor, just as a fastener guy, there's something I've been using lately that maybe everybody else knows about already, but I just found out about it. It's called Evernote.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Yeah, and I connect it between my PC at home and also a mobile phone. The iPhone can hook into it.
Yeah, that's the neat thing is that pretty soon everybody ought to have a smartphone, I think. If you don't have one yet, get one in the next year or so. And don't let it intimidate you, and not you guys, but anybody else. I know you're already iPhone friendly.
Oh, slave to the thing. What are you talking about?
You what? Oh, slave to it.
God, Eric can't even have breakfast without having his bloody phone with him.
It controls you. You ask it what to eat for breakfast, right?
Right. How many calories in this?
Obey the app.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have trouble making decisions, you can always let the technology do it for you.
So what is this tool? What is the overall function of this tool that you're describing?
There's another great thing that I can relate it to that people might be more familiar with called Dropbox. Even if you're not, it's easier to explain. Dropbox is very simple. It's, how everybody's talking about cloud-based technology now. It's on the internet. You can just sign up. It's just very secure. You can just drop some files in this Dropbox, and it'll sync automatically. You can do it on your PC. Just put it in a folder, your Dropbox folder, and it'll be on the internet. So you can, from any other computer, you can go to your Dropbox and get these files on spreadsheets, documents, whatever. Even from your phone, you can do it from your smartphone. And then Evernote is kind of like Dropbox, but it's not just for dumping files into. You can have a notebook specifically for if there's a project you're working on. Let's say you take a picture of an application at your customer's job site, and then you look up the specs for the fastener you're thinking about doing. And there's a button that just gets installed on your browser when you install the software, where if you're looking at a web page, you can just select the important part of that web page, very simply click the little Evernote logo on your browser, and it'll save it into what they call a notebook for you. And you can set up a lot of different notebooks for different projects. So like right now, there's this rivet I'm working on, for example, for a customer. We've got an application difficulty. In there, I have a couple pictures of where they're using it. I have a couple pictures of the rivet that they're using. I have little clips that I've taken from manufacturers' websites of their specs for alternative rivets. I have clips of a couple of the emails we've passed back and forth. But it's not just in a folder. It's out on the web so that I can access it from my phone. I can access it from a computer at my customer's place. It's just something that people really, I think, ought to try and kind of fool around with a little bit.
That sounds pretty cool.
Does it make sense?
So what does the interface to the smartphone do for you, though? So you can grab texts or you can snap pictures from your smartphone and then just zip them right up to Evernote and they get stored in there? Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was saying you can access it from your phone very easily, but you take a picture of something and then just, boom, click on this Evernote thing. It'll stick it in your Evernote out on the internet, so when you get home, go to your PC, it'll be on there too. You don't have to transfer things around. It's just all, as they say, in the cloud.
Uh-huh.
And you can search through it as well. You can say, I want to find, I've got one, this is a little notepad called, interesting links relating to the iPhone for fully threaded. So if I find something weird, I think, oh, that's cool. I just click on, stick it in there. So later on, I come along and say, what are those little sets of things I had, that you normally write down little bits of paper everywhere and then lose.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got them somewhere, and you can be sitting, cruising through your phone, having a look at stuff, and go and look at the links, and it will link back to the main website, or you can just look at what was on the page of that link.
Right.
It's actually, and there's a couple of others out. One is one that Microsoft developed a while ago. It hasn't had the success, but some people use it more. It's used in corporate. It's called OneNote. Does the same sort of thing. It has an interface for an iPhone as well.
Mm-hmm.
I found it a little bit harder to use, but I'm sure you get used to either one.
Now, Andy, you're a LinkedIn user, and LinkedIn has really been, I think they've come a long way in the last year rolling out some business productivity apps. And I think a lot of people don't really leverage them yet. But have you given any of these apps a try?
No, since you're asking, I am a little more Facebook focused than LinkedIn, and I know LinkedIn is more of a business thing, but as LinkedIn is sort of trying to copy some of what Facebook does, Facebook is also definitely, with company pages and things like that, are getting more into the business area, and I think actually a little bit more aggressively. I mean, I could see Facebook just buying out LinkedIn. That would be interesting. But no, I haven't tried them. Which ones are you talking about so I can check them out?
Well, like I said, there's a suite of business productivity applications. And, I don't necessarily want this to be commercial for LinkedIn, although I do use LinkedIn quite a bit. It's definitely well worth your time to get out there and poke around. I think a lot of people really haven't scratched beneath the very surface of using LinkedIn yet, but I think that's coming. I heard that they surpassed the 80 million user mark a little while back, and I guess they also have an IPO on the horizon, so a lot of exciting things happening for them.
Yeah, I've been noticing they've been adding a lot of things, but honestly, and I think everybody needs to pick where they're going to spend time. I just haven't had the time to try a lot of the things I've seen popping up on there. So I'll go look at your profile and see what you've been doing and copy you.
Right. Always a good move.
Yeah. That's what I do all the time. This stuff that I talk about, it's just me copying somebody else, But that's the great thing about being on the web and social media. You can just kind of listen in on what's going on and pick out what you want.
You mean borrowing ideas, don't you?
Yeah. Expanding on ideas. Right.
Yeah, I didn't use the word stealing or.
No. Now, have you, then relative to Facebook, have you seen, Facebook's been through a heap of changes in the last couple of weeks or 3 weeks. And to my mind, not all of them actually make Facebook easier to use. I think if you're administering it, your own page, it's become bloody difficult. It's sort of, there's things that you used to be able to just click on and go to. Now you can't find them, and it's really a mess, I think.
Yeah, Facebook, part of the charm used to be that it was so simple.
Right.
Even when they finally did put in ads, it was very low profile over on the side and quiet, and the pages were pretty stark, really, and simple.
Right.
And they have made it look much more cluttered and complicated. I'm just kind of assuming that they're looking towards some sort of long-term goal, and that the functionality that they expect to need in a couple of years maybe is going to require what they're doing. Or maybe they're being taken over by people who don't understand the original concept and they're just messing it up. Who knows?
Right. They're going for a long-term, cluttered, complicated look. Right.
Yeah. Maybe they just hired too many designers and programmers and they all needed something to do. Let's hope that's not the case.
I think it's quite possible, though.
I know that every time they make a change, it really annoys people. Facebook users tend to, the heavy users like to have it stay the way that it is because they can go on every day and do what they do without any changes.
Right. Okay. They can satisfy both possibilities. They can have, you can have a classic Facebook and the new Facebook if they wanted to. Then they can have the completely uncluttered, easier to use version and the bloody messed up version they have now.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll do that actually. They'll let you keep it the classic way for a while, and then all of a sudden you'll get a message saying, okay, we're switching everybody over tomorrow, whether you like it or not.
Right.
So far they're going along gangbusters as a company. So I'm gonna guess that they know what they're doing, but as we see with other companies, once they get really big, sometimes they just lose focus and lose sight of what they're doing.
Maybe if you call them up and explain this, they'll change their direction. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's call him right now on the air.
Yeah.
Let's call Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, hey, a couple of minutes ago you mentioned the master distributors and their efforts online, and let's circle back to that for a second. Is there anything or any development that has happened in the last 12 months since we really dug into this that you've seen that's impressed you one way or another?
Yeah, and this is just from I have to make sure and state this is from my perspective in Northern California, because I know there are some master distributors that are more prevalent in the Midwest and the East Coast. But out here, it's basically come down to, for the bread and butter stuff, it's Brighton Best and Porteous. And there are some smaller places. And, of course, there's a company that starts with H that is a factor but might not continue to be. I know you guys have been talking about them. But with the online ordering, it's improved a lot. Some of the ideas that we had earlier are being implemented. There's still a long way for them to go, because I'm always talking about drop shipments. I think that the interface for that should be a lot easier to use, and you should be more confident that if you drop ship to your customer that the packing list is going to show the information you want it to show.
Right.
And I've talked to them at the Vegas show, and there are some things they're working on that would actually almost be like how Cambridge does it, where it's kind of a blind packing list. You can't even necessarily tell where it comes from, and it'll have just the receiver's PO number on it. That's really, I think, what we're shooting for. But the online ordering system, maybe I'm just more used to their interfaces because we've been using them more, but it's a lot smoother than it used to be.
Are you using Brighton's system?
Yeah, that's one that we use quite a lot because, they've got such a broad product line, and they've got a lot more packaged basic fasteners than they used to.
Well, you hear a lot about them. I think a lot of people regard them as a leader. And, of course, they've got the interface with the Computer Insights Business Edge system now, and that got a lot of press. A lot of people talk highly about it. And you could make the argument that they're forcing a lot of change in the industry. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah, I do think so, that they've actually been the leader in a lot of the technology changes and the changes in the way distribution might be looked at, especially like you're saying, the interface, that we don't have that. But if you start to look at, even if you don't have that interface, if you start to look at Brighton Best and Porteous's inventory as an extra warehouse of your own company as a distributor, that's how they're selling that interface. But even without that interface, you can quickly look something up on Brighton Best's website, let's say, while you're talking to one of your customers and say, oh, yeah, I've got that in stock in Hayward, one of our local branches. Because you really do, in a way. You just go grab it that day. The technology allows you to do that so much more quickly and efficiently that it really is like you've got a satellite warehouse in your supplier's warehouse.
Right. Now, there was a study done a couple of months ago, and this was publicized on LinkedIn, and, I don't have it at my fingertips, but I should get it and put it on our Facebook page. Out of all the fastener-related organizations that were doing business online, they gave the trophy top honors to Fastenal. Have you guys used the Fastenal search site or knocked around out there to see what they were talking about?
Actually, I've had them. Sometimes I'll do a Google search for something just for kicks, and they'll pop up for basic items sometimes. So I'll look at their site. We don't ever buy anything from them because we wouldn't do that. They're a competitor of ours. But they do have a nice interface. I mean, they've got gobs and gobs of money to put into it. So I would expect that.
Oh, they've crushed the SEO. I mean, they've just crushed it.
Yeah, they have spent serious effort, and they've hired they put a lot of effort into really, really improving their web presence. When we started off in this business, you could never find a mention of Fastenal, even though they were a really big company then. Now they're all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's obvious that they've realized, because they're a big player nationally. They've got all the branches. Like I said, tons of money to put into the technology. So it does make sense for them to enter into that realm of, somebody's just looking for a 5/16 by 1 grade 5, doesn't know where to get it for some reason, searches, can get it from them. Whereas the local distributor to try and get that kind of SEO exposure, having Google go to some local distributor's site looking for that item, it's just not going to happen. It's kind of a waste of time to try it. But these big guys, Fastenal and maybe Grainger, they've got the chops to try and go for that kind of business.
I'm interested to want to go back to your comment about the fact that you wouldn't buy from Fastenal because they're your competitor, but is not in the same way if they're based on their web presence. Brighton Best a competitor as well. They're a distributor and a competitor for you.
No, they won't. They won't sell direct to our customers. I can have them send something direct to one of my customers and not worry about it. That's the whole beauty of it.
Okay.
We're still kind of at the point, and I see this changing over the next 10 years, but we're still at the point in the fastener distribution business where distributors know which of their suppliers will sell direct and which won't. And if we know you'll sell direct, even if it's coming to us first and then going to our customer, we'll still give preference to companies that will not sell direct, period. And again, I see that changing because anybody now, if they really want to find something on the internet, they don't need us to find who makes it anymore. It's usually easier to use us, but they don't necessarily need us. So
they're probably not using the internet to find who makes it, right? They, based on many of the people that we talk to, they may not know they need to talk to a distributor or someone like yourself because they need to find out really what is this the right thing that they're looking for?
Exactly. We're kind of almost like the curators. We'll offer up what we think that the end user is looking for, and then they can make their decision based on what we've found for them. That's exactly. I see our role continuing as distributors as yes, this is the thing you're looking for, and we can get it for you. Because, like, if I go outside the fastener realm, even if I think I've got a pretty good description for something that's not a fastener, it makes me nervous buying it myself direct because there might be some dimension I've left out or some, important detail.
Right.
And I know that's the same with fasteners. Fasteners are one of the more complicated parts to buy. There's usually not a manufacturer's part number you can rely on. You've got to know all these dimensions and plating and all this stuff. And that's where the distributor has a definite role. But like I said, at this point, really one of our main things that we focus on is, will the supplier sell direct? If they will, it kind of makes us nervous because sometimes you just never know. If your customer is going to do a little bit of extra digging to find out where this stuff came from originally, then they might cut you out. If they're willing to do that extra work and, like you're saying, take that extra risk of maybe buying the wrong thing.
Right, but that's probably the same in almost any industry, really, isn't it? I mean, that's why people build up relationships with their customers. And the customers often know, well, I could probably get this somewhere else, but I prefer to get them from here.
Yeah, but if anybody ever did that to you now, Andy, you'd probably just Twitter them. You'd get vengeance.
Oh, yeah, I'd blow them away,
Smother them with tweets.
Right. Tweet them away.
That's the thing, though, and not to sound like I'm bragging, but I have been in the business long enough, and my customers know me well enough that if they have anything related to fasteners, they're not going to fool around with it. They're just going to come to me. I mean, sometimes I'll even have things drop shipped to them from places that maybe they could buy from direct, but they're not going to mess with it. Andy takes care of our fasteners. Anything fastener related, go through Andy or your local distributor that you like, because they're going to take care of you and make sure you get the right thing.
Yeah, I think one recurring theme is that although there are a lot of pressures on the old models, relationships are still critical. That's why the associations work. That's why a lot of these relationships, this hierarchy, still exists to the extent that it does. Yeah, it's changing. There are pressures against it. These relationships are critical, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, even if there was some universal part number for every single fastener that anybody could use and be sure of what they're going to get, which doesn't exist and probably never will. Even if that did exist, though, when a problem pops up, you want to be able to call somebody and have them come out, or a special issue or an odd need comes up. You don't want to just suddenly be stuck with this website, this completely impersonal website, or even a phone call. You want to have somebody that you can count on to come out and help you figure out the issue.
Yeah. Of course, you don't need to know the part number of everything in the world because you just need to pass it through the scrubber and it'll work out what it is.
That's right. Not every industry has that magical thing available to them, but of course the fastener industry does it.
Right.
Fastener's Clearinghouse. No, that really is. I'm glad you guys came around and are there, because it's sort of a model. Fastener people and non-fastener people, who don't know quite as much about it, who haven't been fooling around with it for 25 years or whatever like I have, they can still find what they're looking for. Plug in just a few of the things you do know, and then from the results that come up, you can find the rest.
Right.
And it's difficult to do that, as you probably know from having programmed and still keep programming it. There are just so many variables in a fastener description. Even in a basic fastener, there's so many variables.
Right. I mean, it goes back to this really interesting thing we touched on last episode, which is the fact that this computer called Watson worked out how to sort of understand a spoken question, okay? The way that someone says something, the fact that you try to explain to someone how difficult is it when you look at a fastener description to work out where the size is. It's just a set of numbers in a slightly different format that allows us to tell it. But if you try and tell a program, a computer, go and pick the size out, it's really, really difficult. Well, if there's 4 numbers together, it probably isn't the size, it's a part number.
That's actually a good point. Watching what Watson did on Jeopardy, I guess that would be like the pinnacle of what could be achieved with a scrubber-like software someday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Take it to its logical conclusion, right? I hadn't actually thought of that before, but wow.
Oh, yeah, that's why, your job is never going to be finished, because there is so much more to go. There will come a point where we can just ask our computer, where do I get a 1/4 20x1 grade 5 Monell hex-head cap screw, and it'll serve up the answer.
Right.
Of course, it'll go through the scrubber first at Fastener's Clearinghouse, and your answer will be spoken to you in any voice you choose from your computer.
Yeah, we actually built a version of that, which we have not ever put public, to allow you to put in free format a fastener description like that, and for this to secretly or behind the scenes, the scrubber would work out what it really was and do the search. And that was offered. We put that in our interface into the ERP systems, but it's sort of complicated.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can drive it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll just keep tweaking it and making adjustments as we need to for what we're using it for now. But thank you very much for bringing it up, Andy. It's much appreciated, and we're glad guys like you are out there who know the difference and know that it is a successful piece of software that's helping the industry.
Whenever I'm looking for something, if I have any sort of difficulty with our frontline suppliers, next thing I always do is check out Fastener's Clearinghouse, see who might have what I'm looking for, or something. They have a lot of near sizes that maybe they're going to have what I need. It's a great search tool because it's so quick and intuitive for a fastener person. I don't get frustrated by the thing telling me there's no results when I know that the results are in there. I just maybe didn't put the dash in the right place.
Right.
Fastener's Clearinghouse doesn't get picky about that.
Well, we sure do appreciate that. And I'll tell you, while we're on the subject of laying out thanks, thank you very much over the last year for the support that you've given us with Screw Crew. I know you've driven a lot of people to Fully Threaded Radio, and we sure do appreciate that. You've been one of our biggest fans and supporters. Well, I don't know how many people would fall into this category, but I think you've listened to just about every episode and watched this thing move along. Anything in particular that stands out in your mind as a highlight over the last year?
Oh, wow. Put me on the spot, huh?
You're right. You thought you were going to get away easy, didn't you?
Well, there's that Andy Pels guy. He's always a hoot. He's great. But it's been neat because at the beginning it wasn't clear where it was going to go. But then I think when a couple episodes came out and it was a real thing, you got some... you got some big names from the bigger companies and the associations on there in a way that, if you think about it, there's been crossover between discussion between the associations and the businesses that never would have happened. The associations pretty much stay separate except for the national one. But there's been discussion that I think has kind of started to blend everybody together a little bit more, which makes so much sense. Why should we be regional with the technology we've got now, it's kind of silly to stay regional and not talk to each other. So I just think the communication between all those different groups has been a great thing.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the visibility.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I was just going to say, I never would have paid any attention to what was going on with the Midwest Fastener Association because I'm not there. But it's been interesting hearing about it, and I'm sure that other associations are listening in and, incorporating some ideas, and everybody's sharing information. So that's always a good thing.
Well, mission accomplished in that regard, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, thanks again, Andy, for joining us on that first episode and for coming back. I know you were with us for the post-Vegas analysis, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you guys again in Vegas this year.
Look forward to it.
Andy Pels, crewcrew.com. The fully threaded one-year gala extravaganza continues in a moment.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, all just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who have ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
This is a traveling salesman at Fastener Talk, FastenerBlog.net, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, Online Fastening Soul Brothers, back with you. I was thinking we should have asked Andy Pels what his opinion is of the singularity. In other words, how long will it be until one of these computer robot creatures is capable of basically replacing him, and I wonder if he's in fear of that at all.
I don't think in any reasonable amount of time, okay? It'll get there. In fact, as we discussed in our talk with Andy, we're such a long way from there yet, even though it seems sort of just round the corner. The reality is that these computers, I don't really think they are running programs that pretend to make them look like they're thinking. And, their sense, things that humans do so easily is recognizing patterns, and we have terrible trouble programming that into computers. It's something that looks easy is so difficult.
Yeah, I was thinking while I was listening to Andy explain his experience with the FCH search engine, he pointed out that he finds it pretty intuitive and easy to use, and he thinks that non-fastener people would find it that way too. And I hope that's true, but it really speaks to people think about how to locate things differently based on their whole experience, and trying to program a computer to be one size fits all. I mean, geez, what a task.
Right. So, I mean, given the variability of people, would you have to program the computers to be like that?
Well, one of the things that Google has done, and it continues to do, it always will, is develop these algorithms to not only interpret the input that users give it, but also what to do with the result sets. And with the billions and billions of potential results that they're dealing with, I mean, that's one thing. But even in the fastener world, I mean, FCH has got, about 600,000 line items in it right now, and just trying to come up with the, say, top 50 for any given item. I mean, that's challenging enough, isn't it?
Right, yeah, because we have to try and, as best we can, sort the results into an order that we think is relevant to people. And our view is that that's probably based on the size of the fastener. But other people think differently. I mean, we have people that we talk to who don't see that a tab is something you can click on. They've never, that's like a miracle when we say, well, if you're trying to search for a HECO part, just click on the brand search and type the part number in.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that a tab is something that you could click on.
Well, it's good to have guys like Andy Pels out there thoughtfully giving us feedback, and sure to appreciate him being with us for our one-year show.
Yeah.
And let's thank our other guests today also. Nancy Rich from the Midwest Fastener Association, Andy Cohn from Duncan Bolt and the Pacific West Fastener Association, and of course Mike McNulty with Fastener Technology International magazine. Give him hell, Mike.
Right. Now I just want to point out that even though we're going to cover this a little bit later on,
there's not much left in the show, Brian.
Oh, no. Yeah, part of our interview with Andy Cohn, and something that we have set as our secondary theme for the show, which is robotics, that those people going to the Pac-West meeting in Seattle will be able to go to the Science Fiction Museum of Hall of Fame in Seattle and see one of the vehicles which was used in what I consider my favorite science fiction movie. It was called Blade Runner, okay?
Oh.
So Blade Runner came out about 1982 or something like that. And it was based on a short story by a very famous science fiction author called Philip K. Dick. And the book was called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? But anyway, this movie dealt with the future set in Los Angeles. Great movie. And one of the vehicles that the police used to drive around in were called spinners. And one of these spinners is up in the Science Fiction Museum in Seattle.
Well, that conference is happening on March 17th through the 19th, so sounds like a good little side trip. God knows there's no golf to play.
Right. So head off to the Science Fiction Museum and Hall of Fame.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Right. Now, speaking of robots.
Yes.
You should know that the first use of the word robot was in a play by a guy called Karel Čapek, 1921. He coined the phrase. And the word android, which people using their Google-powered phones probably think just came out of Google, was in fact coined in England in the 1700s to refer to the mechanical people or that they were building for circus shows.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that originally a robot was a term that was referred to, one of these automatons that had been grown out of chemicals, and an android was something that was mechanical. And then in the 30s, the definitions got switched around. So now an android is sort of refers to one of these automatons which is, chemically produced, and a robot is an electromechanical thing.
Well, that's splitting hairs from my perspective. Did you see the link on FoxNews.com? It was the headline, "The creepiest, most realistic robot ever." I mean, this thing is unbelievable. We'll put this up on the Facebook page.
I know. I saw that too, and it's, I actually sat back and tried to work out, was this really, is it a sort of a joke? I mean, is it really a person actually?
No, it's not a real person. It's a robot, and it's got all of these sensors in the face, and there's a movie on this webpage that you just got to see. My thought is, when they marry this thing with Watson the computer that played on Jeopardy, I mean, look out.
Right. Actually, I had seen I think it was on Nova, and it was an interview with a person that, was sort of normal, and it was someone that you could ask a question to, and then during this interview, the camera sort of moved slightly around and showed you that the person that you were interviewing actually had no back of his head. It was all wires and mechanisms to move the face, and it was a complete, it was only the top part of the body. It was a complete robot.
Well, the picture on this story has one version of the robot with his skin and hair on, and the other one stripped down, and all you can see is his choppers and his eyes. So I guess this gives a whole new meaning to the word eyes robot.
I mean, is that how you're going to end our 1-year anniversary episode?
I guess so. I don't have anything better right now. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. It has been a really great year, and we hope to come back with a whole bunch more great episodes for you.
See you later, everybody.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I can't think of anything else to say at the moment, okay?